Okay, so you want to do a school project, a high school project about genital cutting, male genital mutilation in particular in Australia. So, in Australia, first of all we have to acknowledge that Australia's first people who lived here for thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years, some of our first people practiced genital cutting of males, some did males, some did females, some probably did both. So in any consultation about the law and genital cutting, Australia's first people should always be consulted. I can remember when Julia Gillard said, "There is no place in any religion or culture for female genital mutilation." That makes one wonder, were Australia's first people consulted about that, since they did practice genital cutting and of males and females? But Julia Gillard said, there is no place in any religion or culture for female genital mutilation. Of course, Julia Gillard didn't say there is no place in any religion or culture for male genital mutilation. She didn't say that. So, why am I mentioning that? Well, we're at the Australian Human Rights Commission and looking at their addresses and their commissioners. The Australian Human Rights Commission address is Level 3, 175 Pitt Street, Sydney, New South Wales, 2000. GPO Box 5218, Sydney, New South Wales, 2001. The Commission has a President and 7 Commissioners. Yes, well, let's see how some of these Commissioners are not unrelated to the practice of, the rights involved, whether or not to have an intact body, whether that's a right or not, these commissioners have to decide, if they've ever even considered it. You want to do a school project, you'll have to ask these people. Now, the President of the Human Rights Commission is Professor Gillian Triggs. In recent months, she went along to an anti-FGM conference, and she gave a speech against FGM, and in that speech she cited some United Nations paragraph that said something to the effect that female genital mutilation was gender-based violence. So basically, President of the Human Rights Commission, Professor Gillian Triggs, said that FGM is gender-based violence. At no point so far has Gillian Triggs declared MGM, male genital mutilation, to be a gender-based violence. She hasn't. But if you go to the Human Rights Commission website, and you will if you're doing this school project, you will find out that Professor Gillian Triggs says that all children should be educated in their fundamental human rights. Of course, fundamental human rights include the right to intact genitalia. At no point so far has ever, in all of her public speeches, whatever, search for it on the internet, Professor Gillian Triggs has never ever said that male genital integrity is a human right. She has not said that. Incidentally, you might like to inquire of Professor Triggs about her own 2 male sons, whether or not they were protected from male genital mutilation. She has 2 sons. You might ask her if she saw fit to protect them from genital mutilation, which is gender-based violence after all. Now, there's an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner and a deputy there. So if you want to ask about the status of genital cutting amongst Australian Aboriginal peoples, they would be the people to ask whether or not it is a right or not to cut somebody, an underage person. Of course, adults can do whatever they like. Adults do all sorts of things. Adults do genital piercing of all ethnicities and cultures. Adults do all sorts of things, don't they? They do labiaplasty, genital piercings, all sorts of things people do nowadays, men and women. So I think the Australia's first people should be consulted about whether genital integrity for children is a human right. I don't know that Australia's first people practiced infant genital cutting. I don't know that. I know that boys are still done in Aboriginal Australia. and I'm sure that they consider that a human right. The Age Discrimination Commission, well, that doesn't really come into it exactly, although some older men who have been genitally cut as children do have problems when they're older. That is a fact. The Age Discrimination Commissioner might look into that. Now, the Children's Commissioner, you're doing this project on genital cutting of Australian children, of genital mutilation. The Children's Commissioner, Ms. Megan Mitchell, Ms. the feminist Ms. Megan Mitchell, she has never in her 3 years as Children's Commissioner ever uttered a word in defence of a male child's right to genital integrity. She hasn't, and it appears unlikely that she's going to. If you go to her Twitter account or her Facebook account, there are always pictures of her with children, male and female children, smiling, broadly smiling, having friendly social interactions with all these children, but at no point has Children's Commissioner Ms. Megan Mitchell ever defended a male child's right to genital integrity. She hasn't. As I say, she's always pictured in close company with children, as if she cares about children. But thousands of boys have been cut in the 3 years since Ms. Megan Mitchell was Children's Commissioner. She's not defended male children's right to genital integrity. You might ask her why. You might basically ask her, you must ask Triggs too, Professor Triggs, you must ask them if genital integrity is a human right of male children. Because they believe, obviously, that it's a right of female children. You must ask Triggs, you must find out these things if you want a good bird's eye view of the whole human rights picture as regards male genital mutilation and male genital integrity. Ms. Megan Mitchell does not defend children. Thousands of male children have been cut since she was ensconced as Children's Commissioner. Now there's a new Disability Discrimination Commissioner. I don't know much about him. I know that the last Disability Discrimination Commissioner, what was his name? It was, yes, Mr. Graham Innes. He didn't, as far as I know, ever defend genital integrity as a human right, when of course genital mutilation of boys is a disabling of their genitalia. It cuts out 75 to 80% of the most sensitive nervous tissue. So if you can turn a blind eye as Disability Discrimination Commissioner to the genital disabling of boys, that's something worth asking that Disability Discrimination Commissioner, is genital integrity a human right for boys? I'm sure the Disability Discrimination Commissioner would think that FGM, female genital mutilation, was a disabling of female children. If you cut out a piece of vision, I'm sure he would think it was wrong to cut out a piece of your vision or your hearing or your smell or your taste. Find out from that Disability Discrimination Commissioner whether cutting out valuable nervous tissue from a male child's organ, his penis, is wrong. Whether it's wrong or right. Whether having a full body, an undisabled genitalia, is a human right. Now, the Human Rights Commissioner, Mr. Edward Santow, he's Jewish apparently, according to an article I read a day or so ago, and he's just had a baby boy. So it might be worthwhile asking him whether genital integrity is a human right of male children, whether it's a human right under international conventions, and whether or not cultural and religious arguments should come before the right to an intact body. He would be the right person to ask as Human Rights Commissioner whether a boy has a right to his own penis, or should culture and religion tell him that he doesn't have the right to a full and entire intact penis. Yes, I mentioned Julie Gillard a moment ago. Her Minister for Health was Nicola Roxon, and Nicola Roxon was an atheist, but she came from a Jewish background. I did another video about this. As Health Minister, although she was an atheist, Nicola Roxon said that male genital mutilation has religious, cultural benefits and medical benefits. She argued all those three things, and she argued against female genital mutilation, but as an atheist she said that male genital mutilation has religious benefits, cultural benefits and medical benefits. Now I'll just skip the Race Discrimination Commission because it doesn't specifically Genital mutilation involves all races, doesn't it? No particular race has a monopoly on genital cutting. I'm not Jewish, I'm not Aboriginal, I'm not Islamic, but I've been genitally cut. So no particular race has any monopoly, or it's not the exclusive preserve of any particular race. Now let's just come to the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. Is protecting one gender from genital mutilation, is that a good thing if you allow the other gender to be cut up? Is that sex discrimination? Ask the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Kate Jenkins, Ms. Kate Jenkins of course, whether or not genital integrity is a human right for boys. That's a question worth asking of Gillian Triggs, of the Disability Commissioner, the Children's Commissioner, the Human Rights Commissioner, and the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. No Sex Discrimination Commissioner in the last 30 years, and they've all been women, by the way, and not one has ever defended genital integrity of boys as a human right. The last Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Elizabeth Broderick, was in her post for 8 years, and during that time thousands and thousands of boys had their dicks cut up. They had their genitalia cut up. Boys had their dicks cut up, girls were protected by law. Elizabeth Broderick said it wasn't a priority of hers to protect those children from having their dicks cut up. So if you're doing a school project, you want to ask all these people all these questions. You've got to ask the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Kate Jenkins, whether cutting up a boy's dick is sex discrimination if you protect girls from having their vaginas, to put it politely, cut up. Ask the Human Rights Commissioner whether, yes, Mr. Edward Santa, whether a boy has a human right, whether a right to an intact penis is a human right of any child, or whether religion and culture should come first. The Children's Commissioner, ask the Children's Commissioner, Ms. Megan Mitchell, if genital integrity for boys is a human right, and if she is ever going to do anything about it. Professor Gillian Triggs would be another person to ask to whether genital integrity of boys is a human right, particularly as she said she believed that all children should be educated in their fundamental human rights. Having power over your own penis or your own vagina is a fundamental human right. Indeed, it's illegal in Australia, according to the RSP, to cut out the prepuce of an animal of any gender, male, female, or intersex. These are a few questions you can ask anyway. And don't forget to ask the Aboriginal and Torres Straits Islander Social Justice Commissioner about genital cutting and human rights in Australia and Aboriginal history, and whether Aboriginal people feel they're adequately consulted about genital cutting. It was a practice of some Aboriginal tribes, and a lot of those people still feel it is part of their culture / religion, whatever you want to call it, and I think we should be culturally sensitive. I've been genitally cut as when I was a non-consenting child. I was cut in the 1950s, I was cut without anaesthetic. That was my body that was being cut up. Nobody consulted me about that. I hope that, anyway, there are some questions that you might like to ask when you are, some avenues of inquiry when you're doing your school project. There are questions that you can ask and things that you can find out. See you then, I hope that helps.